Fox 17 News at 6 starts right now.
First at 6, after several audits, even a bipartisan report in the Michigan Congress, they found no evidence of fraud in the past election. Today, petitioners were out collecting signatures to change the state's voting system.
But the petition has some local election clerks worried it'll discourage qualified voters from minorities to the elderly from being able to cast a ballot.
Last week, the State Board of Canvassers approved language for the Secure My Vote petition, and on Friday, at an asphalt business in Caledonia, the group started collecting the 340,000 signatures they need to pass it in the next 180 days. If passed, it would require voters to show state ID at the polls and gives them 6 days to show their ID to a clerk's office if they forget, instead of signing an affidavit at the polling precinct. It bars private donations to local clerk's offices. And it would do away with applications for absentee ballots that come unsolicited to your door like they did in 2020. Special interest groups can still send them out, but under the petition, voters would have to request ballots from clerks and enter their state ID number or the last 4 of their social for it to count. Critics worry the new ID laws will disproportionately impact people who don't have them. That includes many people of color and the elderly.
Not supporting voter ID laws disenfranchise all Michiganders because it allows illegal ballots to be injected into the system.
Christina Caramo, a GOP candidate for Secretary of State endorsed by former President Donald Trump, was at Friday's kickoff event. Caramo says no matter who you are, the state already has ways for people who are low income to get their identification.
So we want to guarantee that everybody in Michigan has an ID, whether you're homeless or what have you, a parolee, a low-income person. In the state of Michigan now, low-income people can get free IDs.
We have huge concerns about aspects of the petition.
Mary Clark is president of the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks and clerk of Delta Township. Her biggest concern is that if the process for requesting an absentee ballot changes, regardless of whether voters do or don't have IDs, it could create confusion and lead to ballots being thrown out.
How are we going to manage those applications which are going to come in with that information not on it because they're not used to it? They may not see it. They may not understand that it is the tipping point as to whether or not their ballot is counted. This is being driven because less than 1% of the people in the state of Michigan voted without a picture ID? I mean, it's irrational.
And Clark worries about having the staff to do it, since also under the petition, they could no longer accept private donations. They could also lose precincts like businesses and churches because some locations donate their space. And for voters who fill out the potential new applications wrong, there is the option to vote on a provisional ballot, but similar to in-person voting, they'd have to present their ID to the clerk 6 days after. Clark says that's where she's concerned. Half of her voters in Delta Township are elderly.
The majority of people on these lists are on these lists, many of them, because they aren't 100% mobile. They rely on family for transportation, or there's reasons why they aren't going to the polls to vote.